Well, the 2023 federal budget has been delivered, and we now have some perspective on it and what it means for Canadians. Here to lend his analysis is Dr. Jack Mintz. He is a President's Fellow at the University of Calgary's School of Public Policy. Welcome back to Boom and Bust, Jack.
Thank you very much. I'm always glad to be here.
I guess this almost sounds like an existential question, but what struck you when you learned of Chrystia Freeland's budget? Maybe you watched it live, maybe you didn't, but what struck you about her approach to the budget this time?
Well, I think that it's somewhat disappointing. We have to remember there's about another $30 billion in additional revenue this year, unexpected revenue that could have gone into maybe dealing with the deficit further, rather than letting the debt going up as a share of GDP. She did have a fiscal anchor that the debt would not rise as a share of GDP would not rise, and for next year it's going to go increase. And so she actually broke her own fiscal anchor, which I think is a very bad sign for credibility for finance minister.
Yeah, here's the thing. I agree with you, and I was I was surprised. I'll say that. It was 4 or 5 months ago, I guess back in November, that we had an economic statement from the finance minister talking. I mean, it was a long process, but talking about getting back to balance and talking about how important it was to have fiscal prudence in today's day and age. And then it was she was singing a different tune, wasn't she?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, she was talking about this things are that even in the worst scenario that they could afford to run a deficit, and of course the deficit is 43 billion last year. It's going to be 40 billion again next year, and so in fact it's not even go to balance over, at least according to their projections, over 5 years. Although frankly I never believe any projections that go beyond a year anyway. But certainly there is a sense of balancing the budget is not an objective for this government. But she did say that her fiscal anchor would be that debt would not rise relative to GDP, and she broke that in this coming year. I mean, when you look at the numbers, the debt GDP ratio is going to go up by over a point. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're running almost a $3 trillion economy, a point is a lot of debt, a lot of new debt that's going to be issued.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, just to bring it home for our viewers, what does that mean for the average Canadian consumer, taxpayer, worker? What does that mean, having this extra debt to GDP?
Well, it means that Canada's going to still be increasing its debt load and the amount of money that it has to borrow from international markets. Canada's in pretty good shape relative to many countries, but we do have to remember our gross debt. This is all government debt. As a share of GDP is over 100%. It's around 112% of GDP, according to the International Monetary Fund. And there is a point down the road that will be looked upon as increasingly risky. Which, when that happens, we start losing our credit rating, or we start seeing higher interest rates as a result, because international lenders become increasingly concerned about the Canadian economy. And we're not at that point yet, but it is an issue that I think we have to keep our eyes on, because it could become a problem down the road.
Yeah, indeed. Anything else surprise you from the budget?
Well, I mean, we have this huge amount of subsidies that are going for for the green revolution, or the energy transition. And it's almost like the 2020 pandemic subsidies. It was at that time it was the right thing to do to try to save the economy, but then the government went overboard. Whoever heard about incomes going up, household incomes going up by 11% during a recession? I mean, this is very strange, and went up because the government transfers are so huge relative to loss of employment income that that people were actually better off during the pandemic than they were worse off. Well, it's the same thing now with these energy subsidies? Are we going too far down the road? I have a lot to say about that particularly.
Right, and we will get back to that because I think that is a critical and important point. We're going to take a brief break with our guest, Dr. Jack Mintz. We'll be back after these messages. Please stay with us.